Alright man, get ready to do some solving equations. In an ideal world, I already uploaded the theory video on, all the whys and hows and some basic examples of this, and then this video is just kind of going off of that and doing a whole bunch of examples. So I've set up 10 examples that I just created from randomness that we're going to go through. They each have slightly like a little different approach to them. We've got some decimals, we've got some fractions, some multiplying and dividing that we're going to use to isolate the variable that we want and solve the equation. If you have not seen the theory video on this, I'll probably link it somewhere around now. Otherwise, get ready. So what I'm going to want you to do is pause the video and solve each problem on your own, and then after that we're going to go through them all. So let me just show you all the problems. Hope you can see them. Alright, we got 5 plus x equals 16, 13 minus a equals 4, 120 minus 6x equals 40, 14 plus 3m minus 4n equals 2. In this case, we want to solve for m. 3.5a equals 7. P over negative 2 equals 40. 31.2 plus z equals 48.6. Negative 30 over 10 equals 4l over 3. X over 2 plus 4 equals 16. And lastly, 3t plus 6 equals 7t minus 5. Go ahead and pause the video and make sure you work on these, and then we'll get right into it. Alright, so by now you should have paused the video and solved all these problems on your own. Now we're going to go over them to see how many you got right, and if you got any wrong, you'll see why. And my method, I've heard that it's a little weird, but to me it makes a lot of sense. So, my method is not the only way to get this done. There are 100 different techniques and different little, peculiarities to how people like to get this done. This is just for me, and it makes, it's the most fail-safe method for me. Alright, jumping right into it, we have 5 plus x equals 16. In this case, whatever you do to the left side, you're going to want to do to the right side in order to isolate the variable and make sure we figure out what it is. So, to get rid of the 5 here, we're going to subtract 5 from both sides. So then we get x equals 16 minus 5. Don't be shy. Go ahead and count on your fingers just like me. I count on my fingers all the time. 16 minus 5 is 11. Now, if your mental math is strong, I would still recommend, if you're not going to visualize it, make sure you double check, because if you're taking a standardized test like the ASVAB, the HiSET, the GED, those tiny little errors could be the difference between passing and failing. So make sure that whatever you do, you stay vigilant, don't get cocky, don't get complacent, make sure that you're really thinking these over. Problem 2, 13 minus a equals 4. Just like the previous question, what we do to one side, we're going to do to the other side. This is how an equation works. We're balancing, so whatever's on this side is equal to whatever's on this side. We're trying to isolate the variable here. To get rid of the 13 here, you see it's a positive number, so we're going to subtract 13 on both sides. So then we get negative a equals 4 minus 13. Negative a therefore equals, this is going to be negative 9. Now be careful, because this a kind of looks like a 9. So I'm going to hook it a little bit, make sure that I'm distinguishing. And then, while this a is still not on its own, what I want to do is make it positive so I can get what a is. To do that, you just flip the sign on both sides. So we're going to multiply by a negative 1, because a negative times a negative is a positive. Gonna do that same thing on this side. So now we have -1 times -a equals +a. -9 times -1 equals +9. Therefore, a is equal to 9. Question 3. 120 minus 6x equals 40. Once again, we're isolating the variable. So the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of this term by subtracting 120 from both sides. So then we have -6x equals 40 minus 120. Minus 120, I can kind of do that one in my head. It's going to be -80. So -6x equals -80. After this, we want to isolate the variable, right? But we are locked in this term. This term is -6 multiplied by x. So what's the opposite of multiplication? It's division. So we're going to divide both sides by -6. That way, -6 divided by -6 is 1, and 80 divided by 6, well, I can't do that one in my head. So let's do 80 divided by 6. How many 6's go into 8? 1. 1 times 6 is 6. 8 minus 6 is 2. How many 6's go into 20? 3, I would say. 3 times 6 is 18. 20 minus 18 is 2. We have another 2 here. Since we've already gotten to the end, we have to add a decimal. Now it's 20 again, so I can tell that we're going to do this forever, right? Oops, that's an 8. So I'm going to say this is 13.3 repeating. So in the end, x equals 13.3 repeating. Alright. Number 4. 14 plus 3m minus 4n equals 2. Don't panic because you have two variables. You'll only care about m here because they're only asking for m. So just forget about this term and just treat it like any normal term. What we're going to do is isolate the m. So the first thing we're going to do is do the opposite to all of these terms. So we're going to subtract 14 from both sides, and we're going to add 4n to both sides. That way, 14 minus 14, we can just get rid of this term. -4n plus 4n, again, is 0. So we're getting rid of that term. Now we have 3m alone, and that equals 2 minus 14 plus 4n. We have these two like terms here, so we can combine them. 3m, 2 minus 14 is -12, plus 4n. Now we still have this 3 in front of this m, and we need to get rid of it. The 3 is attached to the m by multiplication, so we're going to divide both sides by 3. This way, 3 divided by 3 is 1. We are left off with m equals -12 plus 4n over 3. So this is a solution, right? This is correct. What I notice here is that I can simplify it a little further. So, and this is kind of extra credit, but when a fraction is like this, you can separate it. -12 over 3 plus 4n over 3. 12 and 3 are both divisible by 3. So you can say that this is equal to, what's 12 divided by 3? It's 4. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So we can say this is 4, or -4, because this negative sign still carries over, plus 4n over 3. And these two answers are equivalent to each other. It's just written differently. Alright. Moving on. 3.5a equals 7. Here, super simple. We've already done things like this. We have a 3.5 that is attached to the a by multiplication. So we're just going to divide both sides by 3.5 to get rid of it. So 3.5 divided by 3.5 is 1. we have a equals 7 divided by 3.5. Now this is correct. You can also simplify it further. So 7 divided by 3.5. Here's something that we haven't really ran into yet. Long division with decimals. And it's a little annoying, but here's the way to do it. So I don't like this decimal here. I'm going to move it one place to the right. When you do that, you need to add another 0 here, okay? That way, you multiplied 3.5 by 10 to get 35. And you multiplied this 7 by 10 to get 70. So everything is still equal. 35, 70 divided by 35 is still the same thing as 7 divided by 3.5. It's just both of them are multiplied by 10. Alright, so now let's get rid of this. So how many 35s go into 70? Well, this is something that you're just going to have to figure out. 35 times 1 equals 35. If you don't know off the top of your head what 35 times 2 is, if you don't know off the top of your head what 35 times 2 is, you can just do it off to the side over here. 2 times 5 is 10, 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1 is 7. Wow, it's 70. How convenient, right? So I'm going to put a 2 here. 2 times 35 is 70. Super clean long division. No remainder. So 7 divided by 3.5 is 2. And our final answer is that A equals 2. How are you doing so far? Drop a comment. And let me know. Number 6, we have P over negative 2 equals 40. So now this P, the P is a numerator. In order to cancel out this negative 2, we're going to multiply both sides by negative 2. Right? That way we have something on the top and the bottom. We can cancel this out. We have P equals 40 times negative 2, which is negative 80. Oops. I should not use this symbol because it looks like an X. That's why I'll use the parentheses and say it denotes the same thing. 40 times negative 2 is negative 80. Super simple, right? Number 7, 31.2 plus z equals 48.6. Don't get intimidated by the decimal point. Still super simple. We have a term plus our variable equals another term. So all we're going to do is subtract 31.2 from both sides. That way we have z equals 48.6 minus 31.2. And by the way, the reason that I'm doing these out by hand instead of using a calculator is that you will often not be given a calculator for the arithmetic section. For example, my big test that I like to talk about is the ASVAB. On the ASVAB, you will not be given a calculator on the arithmetic section. Anywho, I digress. Let's do this. So 48.6 minus 31.2, and we're lining up the decimals here. 6 minus 2 is 4. Carry that decimal down. 8 minus 1 is 7. 4 minus 3 is 1. Therefore, z equals 17.4. That's our answer. Alright. Number 8. This question, negative 30 over 10 equals 4L over 3. So there are multiple ways to skin a cat. For one, I see 4 terms. In this configuration, I know we can do something called cross multiplying. If you already know what that is, that's great. If you don't, that's alright. And the other thing that I can see off the bat is that this is a super easy fraction. I know negative 30 divided by 10 is negative 3. So you can just take this whole fraction out and replace it with a negative 3. So that's the first thing I'm going to do because I guess it's the first thing that really jumps out at me. I guess they kind of both ways jump out at the same time, but let's just start with this one and then do the other. So strategy 1, we know negative 30. I'm just going to rewrite the problem since I'm going to show both strategies. We know that negative 30 divided by 10 is negative 3. So now we have negative 3 equals 4L over 3. The next thing I want to do is get rid of this 3 in the denominator, so I'm going to multiply both sides of the equation by 3. So 3 over 3, get rid of that, that's 1. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9 equals 4L. Next, you want to separate these two, right? So divide both sides by 4, meaning L is going to be equal to negative 9 over 4. So 9 divided by 4, let's do this off to the side. Well, I know 2 times 4 is 8. 1. We've got some remainders going on here, so I'm going to add a decimal here. 10. Again, let's have a 2. 2 times 4 is 8. 10 minus 8 is 2. 20. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. So 4 goes into 25 times. And we're done. So L is equal to 2.25. Lucky me. No crazy repeating decimals. Just a clean 2.25. Alright, that was the first way. The second way, and you might have already noticed that they're basically the same thing, right? Because you ended up dividing and multiplying, which is what you're about to do. Bear with me. So when you cross multiply, right, you're going to multiply along the lines that I just drew for you. So negative 30 times 3, keep the equal sign in the middle, equals 10 times 4L. Alright, negative 30 times 3 is negative 90. 10 times 4L, 10 times 4 is 40. So this becomes 40L. Now we're going to divide both sides by 40 to isolate the L, right? That way 40 over 40, you can just get rid of that. Now L equals negative 90 over 40. I know that both this numerator and denominator are divisible by 10, so I'm just going to divide both by 10, which comes out to negative 9 over 4. I just made that fraction way simpler. And then, what do you know? It's the same thing. So again, multiple pathways. Whatever you find faster, I would say do. Or whatever you find the most secure and comfortable to do, choose that pathway on the test. Alright, moving on to number 9. X over 2 plus 4 equals 16. First thing I'm going to do is I see this term right here, and these terms are distinguished by addition or subtraction. So I'm going to subtract 4 on both sides, right? We're just trying to get rid of the 4. 4 minus 4 is 0. X over 2 equals 16 minus 4, which is 12. So x over 2 equals 12. Now we have a division here. We're going to want to isolate the x by multiplying both sides by 2. This is canceled out. And now we have x equals 12 times 2, which is 24. Too easy. Lastly, 3t plus 6 equals 7t minus 5. Now we have the variable on both sides of the equation, but don't worry about that. All you have to do is the same thing that you've always done. So what I'm going to do is, I personally like my variable to be on the left side. I don't know why. It's a preference. You can put them on the right. It doesn't matter, as long as you isolate them. So to get my variable on the left side, I'm going to subtract 7t from both sides. This way, we're removing it from the right side. 7t minus 7t is 0. Now, to get this 6 over to the right side, because there's no variable in it, I'm going to want to subtract 6 on both sides. So let me just organize this and rewrite it. 3t minus 7t, and 6 minus 6 is 0, so that's gone. Equals 7t minus 7t is 0. That one's gone. Negative 5 minus 6. Now let's combine like terms. These two are like terms because they're both including the same variable. 3t minus 7t is negative 4t. And negative 5 minus negative 6, negative 5 minus 6 is negative 11. Next, we're going to isolate t by dividing both sides by negative 4. That way, negative 4 divided by negative 4 is 1. That cancels out. And t is equal to negative 11 over negative 4. Now, this negative sign, because it's on both the top and the bottom of the fraction, are going to cancel out. So t is now going to be equal to 11 over 4. I'm going to do that long division off to the side. I know that 2 4s become 8, and that's close enough. 11 minus 8 is 3. We're not done. So we're going to add a 0 here. How many 4s go into 30? I'm going to say 7. 7 times 4 is 28, which gets you pretty close. 30 minus 28 is 2. Still not done, though. Let's do another one. How many 4s go into 20? 5. 5 times 4 is 20. Okay, now we're done. So, in the end, t is equal to 2.75. Alright. Hopefully I didn't get any of those wrong. Lol. Let's see. Ooh. This should be a negative. My bad.